Now, if you've been here before, we celebrate our entrepreneurs like we celebrate our sports stars. Does everybody know what that means? What do? What is it? We cheer them on, we stand up. If you stay seated during this part, you can walk out the door. You are not allowed to stay in your seat when I introduce Jeff, because doing what he does and what he has accomplished is incredibly hard and comes with a ton of sacrifice. So when we celebrate people who have been in the arena, we celebrate them the appropriate way, like we would celebrate somebody throwing a touchdown. Okay, so I want you to imagine it's the first game of the football season, you're at the stadium, someone just scored, and you're about to get really crazy. Does that make sense? Okay, so when I say welcome to reference group Jeff Burningham, we're all gonna just stand up and go crazy. Like that man right there. Yes, bingo, bingo. Okay, everybody ready to do this? We ready? All of you over here? You're not gonna be too cool, Alec? All right, let's freaking go. Welcome to reference group Jeff Burningham! Let's go! Let's go! Hail the conquering hero. Congratulations.
Wow, dude.
Proud of you.
Wow. Wow, I feel like Michael Jordan or something. Like, that was awesome. Thanks, guys. That's cool. Super cool.
Absolutely, man.
I feel like a sports star. That's what you said, right?
That's exactly right.
All right.
That's exactly right. The goal is to celebrate entrepreneurship like we do our athletics.
Yeah.
And you in your day, you were an athletic star. You've been successful in a lot of things. The first question I always ask is what makes you you? When you look back at early Jeff growing up, like what are those defining moments that you look back and say, I'm Jeff because of these things?
Yeah, I mean, thank you for bringing up my athletic prowess. I know I'm a shorter guy, but I actually was a quarterback in high school and a point guard. And actually, my first entrepreneurial endeavor was fueled by competitive basketball. I grew up in Spokane, Washington. When I was 13, I was on an all-star team, like a city all-star team. They picked a player from each high school in Spokane. And we had travel tournaments. And I was the oldest of 6 kids. We could not afford to go to those. I couldn't even afford shoes necessarily. And so I started a carpet cleaning business. This is a true story. I'll tell it real quickly. There was a knock on my door one day. I was doing homework at the table. My mom answered the door. I heard kind of in the background someone selling a carpet cleaner. Of course, my mom said thanks, but no thanks, and closed the door. And she came back and I said, Mom, again, I'm like 13. I said, will you please, can we bring that guy back? Buy that carpet cleaner. I'll pay you back. I'll clean carpets all around. And I can earn some money in order to travel to like Phoenix, Arizona, LA, and other places where these comp tournaments were at. And thanks to my parents, it was very kind of them. Again, I'm the oldest of 6 on a tight budget. They bought this carpet cleaner. I went to work, started cleaning carpets. We lived across from our elementary school. I went to my little brothers and sisters' kindergarten and preschools. I went to my doctor, my dentist. I started cleaning their carpets, and that's what funded the little basketball career that I had. And it's what's my first kind of foray into entrepreneurship. I told that story a couple of times when I ran for governor in the state of Utah in 2020, 5 years ago, but I haven't actually told that since. That was the start.
No, and I think it's so important because everybody's journey is a little different. But the one thing that I found consistently is you're a doer. Like if you're sitting in this chair, you haven't been a passive observer, you've been a doer. And it's always funny to kind of find out, when did the doing start? Like how did you start like getting into like acting or executing against goals?
Yeah, maybe I'll say I have several thoughts on this, some that are in the book, but a couple of things. I think that I've always been a doer. Like that's just been my nature. That's like how I was born. It's just making things happen. I'll say that I think I took that too far at some point in my life. I would even say, I think I say in the book, that I became addicted to doing. And I wasn't as present as I should have been in all my doing. Some of you here may have felt that with me before. I know my beautiful wife, Sally, probably has. My oldest son, Dallin, who is here has. And so I think doing is a double-edged sword. And I think in the age of AI, when intelligent machines can do so much of our doing better than we can, it frees us up to be. And what I mean is to be ourselves, to bring presence and awareness to all that we do. And so I would say that I've always been a self-starting entrepreneur like that. Let me say one third thought, Tyler, and final thought, very personal. This book is very personal. And I'm an open book, and I'll share anything with you today. I think that some of my doing came from some trauma in my early life. We are all wounded. We all have a story to tell. We all hurt in different but similar ways. And we can burn on clean or less clean fuel. In other words, our doing can be out of trauma. It can be out of shame. It can be out of this drive to prove someone wrong. Those are all fuels that will work for a time, but they burn out. They're dirty. They're like coal. They're like dirty fuel. I think the cleanest fuel that we can build, that we can burn on, the cleanest fuel that we can do from, the only fuel that's like inexhaustible, I talk about this a little in the book, is love. Love for yourself, which takes work to get to, and love for your fellow man, love for humanity, love for each one of you. That's the fuel that's inexhaustible. That's the fuel that I recommend we use as much as we can, especially in the age of AI, in all of our doing. So sorry, that was a long answer.
No, I mean, listen, you all are getting a preview of why this is an interesting and exciting conversation. Just kind of laying it out here that this isn't going to be a normal one of these where it's all, here's all the successful things and here's why I'm great. There's a lot of vulnerability today with Jeff, and I appreciate it. I've had the chance to read the book and, hear some of the stories. So we're going to talk about some of the stories that I really picked up out of your journey. And maybe let's just kind of go to the next one, which is as you think through those early years of like overcoming trauma, being driven by success, and like whatever we call high-performing success in our culture around being great at sports or being great at school or being great at whatever, you then get hit across the face with a beautiful face. And you go to college, you've gone on a mission, you're now applying to work at the MTC. Let's talk about like maybe that next.
Okay. We're talking about love.
Yeah, it feels like it's appropriate.
It's so interesting. I'm launching a book today, the last book written by a human. I didn't hear if Tyler introed me at all. Sorry, I was talking to Jim and Bubba and Tyler in the back. But I've built, a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm. I've invested like $100 million in venture capital startups here in Utah. Started the first institutional venture fund in what I call the Silicon Slopes, Utah Valley. I have 4 young children. I was serving very actively in my church. But what I say and what I believe, and I think this is true for all of us, all of that could fade into the background. In fact, all of that will fade into the background. But what will never fade is your love story. Your love story with other humans, and especially your love story maybe with your spouse. So I met Sally at the MTC. She worked there. This will show another little piece of my personality. I was back from my mission. I went to the BYU Jerusalem Center after my mission, right after. Loved it over there. At the end of the semester, this is December, I thought, I need to get a job. I said, I love my mission. I love teaching. I should apply to the MTC. I called the MTC. They say, we just hired 500 teachers. We don't want any more teachers. We don't need any more teachers. And I said, I'm going to come in. They're like, no. And I said, I'll be there Tuesday or whatever. They're like, okay, fine. And back then, I'm sure some of you have taught there. Back then, the interview was like a teaching exam or like whatever. And I scored so high that they're like, okay, fine, we'll take you. And so I got hired. I walked in to the human resource office the first day, and there was Sally like behind the desk. And like, I instantly recognized something familiar to me. And I hope that you recognize some of that in the book. Something familiar, something that sparks something inside of you. And so ever since that day, we've been on an, I'll tell a little bit more of the story because it's interesting.
Maybe we'll have Sally tell it.
Yeah.
Okay, here we go.
Okay, so.
Okay, from Sally's perspective.
All right, babe.
Take your seat. I'm going down here. Okay, so Jeff saw me. This could be a really long story, so I'll try not to make it super long. He decided to ask me out, and he did not introduce himself to me like before he got the spot. And we've seen each other, but anyway, long story to keep it short. He saw me at that light on 900 East, right in front of the embassy, if you're familiar. And he saw that I was in front of him, and he's like, oh, she gets off work the same time I do. I'll ask her tomorrow after work to go on this date. So we're driving home. He just happens. I turned in my apartment complex before he got to his, so he just kind of like, oh, that's where she lives. And so
that's important later.
That's important. So the next day after work, I wasn't in the parking lot. My car wasn't there, and true to his nature, he had set this goal for himself to ask me out the next day, and it wasn't going to happen. And he was super upset about not meeting that goal. And so he drove home to his apartment complex and was literally parking his car and had the thought, I know where she lives. I saw where she turned into her, apartment. So he came to my apartment complex and asked the manager if there was a Sally that lived there. And, they asked for my last name, and he didn't know that because my tag at NTC just said Sally. And they're like, well, we're not giving him any information.
They said, we don't give random guys information about girls that they don't even know. And I was like, what the heck am I doing? I was just off my mission.
Yeah, so then he started walking back to his car, and some girls were walking towards him. So, of course, there's one more chance to see if they knew me. So he asked them, and they're like, yeah, there's a Sally that lives just across from us. Do you want to come up and look at our directory and see if it's her? And he's
This is 1999.
Yeah, so he was picture directory, paper. He's like, oh, I don't know, this is done. And they're like, yeah, no, come. So he looked at it, it was me. He comes to my apartment, and my roommate answers, and he said, is Sally here? And she said, no. And he's like, oh, no. And my roommate said, well, I'll tell her you came by. And he's like, well, she doesn't even know who I am. And so I introduced my roommate, and she invited Jeff in to tell her why he was there and what he wanted to do. And so he wrote all of that story down in a letter to me and left it on my kitchen table for me. And this is actually a really interesting, we're a little emotional today for a lot of reasons, but yesterday was our 26th wedding anniversary. And so this story feels especially close to our hearts. So I get home and I see this letter on the table. I read it and I instantly knew that, just like when Jeff saw me, when I read the letter, I knew this was someone that I needed to meet. And my first thought was, wow, this is either the best thing that's ever happened to me, or this guy is totally insane.
Both could be true.
It happened to people. So I did ask my roommate just to make sure, did he seem okay? And she said, yeah, he seemed really nice. So I called him back immediately, and the rest is history.
Sally loves speaking in front of groups. Good job, babe. Yeah.
No, the reason, there's lots of reasons I love the story, but one of them is Jeff would not be denied. Anytime there's been a barrier or any logical, non-crazy person would have stopped, Jeff said, I don't care. I'm going to keep moving forward and I'm going to find a way. And when I think about everything that's worthy of a goal in life, it's that. It's like, how do you keep going even when there's barriers and blockers and you know what you want, you're going to keep doing whatever it takes. And I think that's true in their love story. And there's a lot of that. But let's fast forward a little bit. You're building a startup. Do you want to talk about the building of that first startup? Or I think the conclusion we can say is you all sell a business.
Yeah, when I was in my mid-20s, I sold my first technology company to a NASDAQ-listed firm. I started the company as an undergrad at BYU. It was a very good learning experience. It was hard. Learned a lot. It was an earn-out with a publicly traded company that did not go. It like gobbled up my baby, my startup, and just shred it to bits. And it was so painful, but a really good learning experience.
Yeah. So after that, you're like, okay, what am I doing next? You have some friends that are coming back from Ivy League MBAs, and you guys decide to start something.
Yeah, when I was an undergrad at BYU, I ran the management consulting club together with one of my best friends. And he went to Wharton. He met another great guy named Jeff, by the way, the more important Jeff at Peak Capital than me, Jeff Danley. They had become friends, and this was in 2006. I had invested the little bit of money that I made from the exit of my technology company into real estate. And you guys may not remember, no, real estate was like this in 2006, straight like this. But I started to see cracks. And if there's something that I think I've been good at in my life, I think you'll feel it in the book. I'm a little bit of a futurist, like I can see or feel the future. And so I knew that there was going to be a pullback in real estate. And I said to Jeff and Jamie, I said, let's start a real estate company and let's buy distressed real estate. This was like 6 to 12 months before the Great Recession occurred in real estate, which was way worse, way harder than I expected. We almost did not make it. We had like 2 years with zero revenue. If I hadn't had the exit I'd had, we probably wouldn't have been able to make it. But when we turned it around quite significantly. We started Peak Capital Partners. You may or may not have heard of that. We've owned about $10 billion in real estate over the last 15 years or so, and have been one of the fastest growing companies in Utah and definitely around the country for quite a long time.
Yeah. So, TLDR, it went well, but also with bumps along the way.
For sure. Yeah.
And so let's talk about when you're in the MBA class, you're getting an MBA in the middle of this.
Yeah, I am. Here's my addiction to doing. Are you guys ready for this? Listen to this story, see if it resonates with you. I'm in an MBA class. I tell this story in the book. So I'm running a multi-billion-dollar private equity firm, investing a lot of venture capital, like I said, a young father, a young bishop, et cetera, et cetera. Somehow I think it's a good idea to get an MBA on top of this.
You don't have enough going on.
I don't have, and the only times I can obviously do that are late at nights and on weekends. And I have to, looking back, I'm like, what was I thinking? What in the world? But I know exactly what I was thinking. And this is a lie that we tell ourselves too often. We often believe that if we do more, we are more, or we can be more. And that's just not true. What we are all looking for is already inside of us. We are conditioned and programmed and learned to look externally for validation, for whatever the case may be. But what we're really looking for is inside. So let me tell you this quick story. I'm seeing an MBA class in a leadership class. And the professor says, tell me things that are most inspiring you right now, the most excited things. And I get excited about this because I've always been a big dreamer, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to dig in here. I was completely flat and empty. Like I couldn't think of anything. I sat there, I struggled. My classmates start typing away, and I'm empty. Finally, 2 things come to me. 2 things that I'm not proud of. The second of which took me to my first therapist. But here's the scene. And again, remember I'm a kid of the 80s and 90s. The first scene is what I say in the book, of a badass Cribs plus Yo MTV Raps episode, like a mashup of that. Does anyone in my era can understand what that is? It was like scantily clad people illicit substances that I knew nothing about. I mean, I never tasted coffee or tea, let alone alcohol and drugs. It was this wild party scene. And although I knew in the end it would be empty, it felt so freeing because I had just put too much on my plate. The second thing that came to me, and like I said, sent me to see the first therapist of my life, was even scarier, actually. I knew that that was highly unlikely based on my background, and it didn't appeal to me long term, but this did more. I saw myself quietly close my laptop, put it in my bag, and drive 15 minutes down the road to the Salt Lake City airport, buy a one-way ticket to the furthest imaginable place, and just disappear from the face of the earth. Leave my soulmate Sal, my 4 precious kids, my business partners, this financial empire that we had been building, and just leaving it all behind. That scared me to death, or just really shook me. So again, parsing out with my first therapy sessions, I realized that all this doing had hollowed out my being. I was not being present for the things that mattered most. And so it started returning me to my being. And just to put a pin, like in the book, I think this can be a blessing with AI. It can turn us back to ourselves, back to our being. In an age of highly intelligent machines, the work for humanity, the work for each one of you and for me and for us to do is to become more human. We need to lean into our humanity, into the messiness, the beauty of what makes us human. So that was kind of that story.
Yeah, no.
You're getting to the good ones. And
No,
I'm sharing too much.
No, I mean, there's a couple things I just want to hit on here. Is like a lot of people with AI and the lead researchers at OpenAI have said it's going to be less about the hard skills and more about the soft skills of moving forward for humanity. And you know, the common thread across your book is that idea of how can you be more human and more of a being and less of a doer. The other thing I just want to say for everyone in the room, like what he's saying around the MBA and that moment of trying to figure out who you are, that moment of like being okay with who I am personally didn't come till I was 35. Not till I was 35 years old did I say, you, Tyler, as you are is enough. And the sooner I would say to all of you, the more that you can be cool and happy with who you are as you are and not some future goal. There's not some finish line you're going to cross that's going to change the holes inside of you.
Amen. Can I just, I'm launching this book today. You guys have no idea how much I have bled into this book, heart and soul. It's launch day, right? I wake up early this morning and I realize, and I remembered this on my launch day when I ran for governor. I realized this on the day that I lost the governor's race during the pandemic. And I often tell, I've been an adjunct professor of entrepreneurship to thousands of students at BYU. And I often tell them that the most powerful ideas are the most simple and therefore the most neglected. The most simple and therefore the most neglected. And here's one of them. It's about the process. And we've all heard this, we've seen it on posters with kittens in our bedroom. Our mom put it up or our CEO puts it up. The joy is in the journey. But let me just say, the joy is in the journey. Today's the launch day for my book. It's just another day. And by the way, it's just the start of a process for me and a little bit of a career pivot potentially. And so what's hit me today, Tyler, I just want to emphasize, it's not about a destination. And I'm saying that in every regard, existentially, with your company. It's not about the destination. It's not about the exit. It's not about the outcome. It's about what you become in the process. And my strong encouragement to all of you, especially those younger than me, I'm 48, enjoy the ride. The joy is in the journey. It's not in any destination.
Yeah, this was a quote from your book that I wanted to share. Anyway, having worked my way to the top of my little mountain, I'll let you in on a secret. There's nothing up there. I mean, absolutely nothing. And more nothing on top of that. Up there, you're simply staring back into the void of existence, stuck with the same questions you had at the bottom and all along your march to the top. And I've interviewed a lot of people who've made a lot of money and been successful, and like the reason why you'd come is because you want to hear a story of somebody who's been successful. But in reality, on the other side of success is depression more often than not. Because now you're stuck questioning, what was all of it for? Why did I sacrifice all the things that I sacrificed? Why did I prioritize work before the being, right? And I think, let's talk a little bit about your moments along the journey where you are like questioning and like maybe the process of going from, doer to beer, if I can say it that way.
Yeah, I mean, I ran for governor in 2020 here in Utah. I was running my venture fund. It was called Peak Ventures. It's now called Album. I had hired that entire team. I was helping to run Peak Capital Partners. It was very disruptive. But I felt, and I'm not a politician, I'm an entrepreneur, but I felt like an outsider perspective would be really helpful in Utah at that time because of the growth in Utah. The challenge for Utah and the blessing is growth. And I thought an outsider, someone who had built the growth that was occurring, Governor Cox, then Lieutenant Governor, the legislature, they would often call me and say, Jeff, is the economy in Utah really as hot as everyone says it is? And I would say, no, it's hotter. I'm investing in the second, third, and fourth wave of startups that you have never heard of, that you know nothing about, and some of them are going to be fantastic. You have no idea the growth that is coming to Utah. So anyways, that's why I ran. It was so interesting. I felt myself, and I start the book on the Ganges River in Varanasi, India. Sally and I are sitting there, and I'm feeling my soul being like lured into deeper waters, away from entrepreneurship and focused on impact. And during this trip around India, we spoke about several things I might do, one of which was run for public office, something I'd never really considered before. So I do that. Let me just tell you that when I did my, plus minus on like why to run and why to not, a global pandemic was not on my list of like what may take me out. Like that didn't make the list. But sure enough, the most critical months of the campaign were March, April, May, and June of 2020. Right when Rudy Gobert shut down the NBA and shut down the USA. Like that's right when it hit.
Yeah, totally.
So I lose into the summer of 2020. And only looking back, Tyler, do I recognize like what was happening. My subconscious was taking me off the stage. I had built a little stage for myself. I had climbed my little mountain of success. I was on like 20 plus boards, for profit and nonprofit. I was addicted to doing and way too busy. This loss going into COVID gave me time and space for the first time in my entire adult life. And that's something that I desperately needed in order to look inside, in order to heal my own wounds, in order to do my own work, and in order to release this book that I hope is transformational for some of you, means something to some of you. And that could have never come out of the stage that I was built on. So anyways, I see clearly now what was happening, but then when it was happening, I was like, why is this happening? Why do I feel so pulled into this race? Even when my business partners and everyone is saying, what in the world are you thinking? Like, have you lost your mind? You're at the top of your game. Politics is so ugly. What are you doing? And I said, I don't know. I just have to do this.
Yeah, and I think this for me as somebody who is reading is part of like trying to become more of who you feel compelled to be, and less about external motivation maybe. So when you think about what drives you now moving forward, one of the things you talk about in the book is AI really becomes a mirror of humanity, and we can either shine a light on it, and it's something that pulls us down, and we just get sucked into the vortex, or we become more. And I think that's kind of where you're going.
Yeah, the argument that I make in the book and what I believe is that AI is a cosmic mirror to humanity. And a mirror can be a scary thing. Like as a 48-year-old guy, I understand waking up in the morning once in a while and going, who in the hell is this? You know, like what, oh gosh, I guess I'm getting older. A mirror, a reflection can be a powerful and scary thing. That's what I believe AI is for humanity. I say in the book that it's a crucible that we must go through together. I think that there is a lot of pain on the short-term horizon for humanity. But if we can do this together, if we can look at our reflection, go inside, do our internal work, I think it can be the greatest things, or one of the greatest things that's ever happened to us. Now, it's hard to see that day to day. I get it. This is maybe a utopian perspective. I agree. This is the bull case for AI. In other words, the good that it could cause to humanity. And yeah, so that's the purpose of the book. Did I answer your question?
Yeah, no.
Okay.
Like when you think about, maybe not just the purpose of your book, but when you think about how you're defining success now.
Yeah.
How?
Here are the two ways I define success now. You might not be surprised. Number one, being able to bring my being into every present moment, period. I believe that the life of God, the life of the universe, our existence is a never-ending present moment. The future doesn't exist, only in our minds. None of us know exactly what's going to happen after this lunch. None of us know exactly what's going to happen in a year. It only exists in our mind. We only get to the future via every present moment. It doesn't exist until we get there. So my version, and the past is the past. We ruminate on the past. We beat ourselves up for mistakes of the past. And it hurts our ability to be our best in the present moment. So my definition of success is twofold. Being able to bring my being, I hope you guys feel that today. I don't know if you do, but I'm trying to be like as present and real with you as I can be. That's my definition of success. The second thing I would say is to live in total non-resistance to what is. I can't control if I'm going to sell 10,000 books or 10 million books. I'm doing everything I can to get the word out there, to promote it, to show it. I feel compelled to do that because I believe that the message in the book is the message for our moment, but it's not really in my control. I'm doing everything I can, within reason, to be as healthy as I can, but I'm not in control of when my body leaves this earth. So I'm trying to meet every moment with as much ease, love, and grace as possible. To live in total non-resistance to what is and what comes to me. Those are my two definitions of success right now. Weird.
No, I freaking love it. And the reason I want to share it is because it's very easy to define success in numbers or metrics or like goals accomplished. And your life has been a lot of goals accomplished.
Yeah.
But when you stop and think about what defines us as humans or what we're here on earth to do or become, it feels much more like the latter of what you've said than maybe how we would have started. So in all of our search for meaning and purpose, like as you're thinking about what you're building, I see quite a few Sandbox students that I've known for the last year, like an Angel, and you're constantly, Caden and Gio, and like you're all building startups. You're all trying to do something special, but in the context of why and who you are, and not losing sight of those are the things that I hope you feel as individuals. Whether your startup succeeds or fails doesn't change who you are or the value you are to the world. Does that make sense to everybody? I want to leave a couple times. Anybody have a question right off the top of their head that they want to ask? Yeah, Mike.
So my name is Mike Norton, about your secrets, but a question that kind of came to mind is, as you've been through your journey, you look back on your life and like, who the moments that taught you the most, whether they caused the trauma or not, I would love for you to share how you talk to that past version of yourself to bring them into the present, to find more love and how you show up today.
Did you guys hear that? I'll try to simplify it. What has taught you the most in the past, and how do you talk to that past person? There's a very powerful therapeutic tool here. We're all wounded, like I said. Most of our families are wonderful, and all of them are imperfect. Most of our faith traditions are wonderful. All of them are imperfect. They wound us in unique ways to ourselves. And it's interesting to go, one of the universal teachers that I talk about in the book is the body. We all have a physical vessel that keeps us grounded to the earth as we're here on earth. And we can go into our body and find pain. So what I often do when I feel anxious about a risk that I'm about to take, and I'm a risk taker, is I go to my 13-year-old self. In my mind, in my heart, I'm a religious meditator. Sometimes I do this while I'm meditating. I find that pain. I speak to my 13-year-old self and I say, hey, Jeff, you might not have had the father that you wanted growing up. He was imperfect. He wounded you. I'm your dad now. Like, I'm here though. I'm your 48-year-old. I'm here to love you. And I'm here to tell you that it's going to be okay. That no matter what risk you take, running for governor and losing, writing this scary ass book, whatever it is, it's going to be okay. You're on the right path. So anyways, that was very personal, but I'm giving you a specific tool that you can do in prayer, meditation, walking, doing yoga, whatever you like to do, where you can try to find in your body where you feel that fear and pain. You can go to that place and try to remember an experience or something that caused you trauma. And you can speak to your younger self and try to comfort them and help them. There's a very specific answer and something, a practice that I probably do that weekly.
Yeah, thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Cynthia.
Hi, Cynthia.
How are you?
Good.
Good to see you again.
Good to see you.
So you ran for office, and although it was a critical time in our country, in the world for that matter, and I assume that you lived in Utah most of your life. By the time that you ran for office, you had lived in Utah most of your life. So you've seen the business world and the business environment here. What did you learn by running for elected office about our state of Utah that you didn't know before?
Yeah, what did I learn about the state of Utah that I didn't know before when I ran for office? Utah is a beautiful place. There are 29 counties. We often kind of think it's like Utah, Salt Lake, and Davis County, and then who knows what else. There are 26 other counties in Utah, people. And while most of the population is concentrated, we're actually, we're one of the least populated states, but one of the most densely populated states, actually, because everyone lives within 60 miles of like this corridor. There is beauty all around Utah. There are good people all around Utah. Here's what I learned more than anything. I remember being in Moab at a campaign event, and I had liberal environmentalists on one side and conservative people that were fighting for access to their lands on the other side. It got heated at an event I was at. A lot of this is sparked, by the way, by the almighty algorithm that feeds us our own opinions over and over and over again and gets us entrenched in our own ideas. When I calmed the situation down, when we spoke heart to heart, and I saw this at the hundreds of political events that I did, whenever we're with another human being, no matter our differences are beautiful. They're meant to bring diversity and beauty to this earthly existence. But no matter our differences, we always have more in common with another human being than different. So AI, there are powerful forces that will try to divide us, that will say conservative, liberal, white, black, rich, poor, whatever, Mormon, Hindu, I'm making stuff up. Like whatever divisions, again, that diversity is beautiful, but it's largely illusory. It's an illusion. And so I think one of the chapters in the book is about a new political movement that I call the human political movement, that is squarely focused on focusing AI on human flourishing. And so that's, I guess, one of my biggest positive learnings from the governor run. We're all whether you live in Moab or Salt Lake, whether you live in Beaver or Provo, we all have similar concerns.
Yeah.
There's always more in common that we share than different. Sorry, if I'm going on.
No. I mean, but you could expand it to say in Japan or India.
Absolutely. Yeah, this applies.
As you travel the world, you realize we all care about the same things, and we're much more connected than not.
Yeah.
As we fine, Rochelle, one more, and then we're gonna wrap. Rochelle, what you got?
Jeff, I really love this today. So
thanks, Rochelle. Thanks for coming.
Showing up for all of us, talking about the real things.
Thank you.
Okay, so one question that I actually have a series of questions, so I'm going to email you to.
Yes, we're gonna email.
Sounds good.
One question I think would be helpful for all of us, including myself, is how you have to get to results and outcomes when you're building a company. So how do you consciously decouple your identity from the results and outcomes that you're building towards as a leader?
Yeah. I've said this a little. I'm going to give you one short answer, and you can push back if you want some. And I've touched on it before. And again, this is one of those things that I tell my BYU students. Simple idea, most powerful, and most neglected. We need to detach actually from the outcome. You need to be as detached as you can from the outcome. This is like a life hack. This is like a trick. The more committed you are to the process of these goals, the more likely the outcome is going to be what you want. Does that make sense? It's like a paradox.
If I try and shoot my best personal score on golf, I will always suck.
Yes.
Because I'm so conditioned to believe the outcome matters.
Yes.
Instead of just letting it flow.
So yes, do we need results and outcomes in business? Absolutely. The best way to get there, meaning most likely to get the outcome you want, and for sure to have peace in your soul, no matter what happens, is to detach from the outcome and put your whole heart and soul into the process. That is one of the things that I have learned throughout my entire being in writing this book. I put my whole heart and soul into this book, and now I have to let it go. You guys get to read it and decide, I love it, I hate it, it's okay, it's boring. What is Jeff talking about up here? I can't control that. I'm doing my best, I can't control the outcome. So that would be my one little life hack or secret. By the way, that's very Buddhist. It's a Zen principle, as I've gotten into Buddhism and meditation a lot since the governor run.
So, but just real fast, is it available on Amazon? Is it on Amazon now?
Yeah, the book's everywhere. You can buy it on Amazon.
But Amazon, leave a review, do all the things. I want to make sure we support Jeff. And as someone who's read the book, I can tell you that it's absolutely worth your time. And as you're thinking about how you're defining your success in your life, there's stuff in here that you have to properly internalize and think through because, there's a few books like How Will You Measure Your Life has been one of those for me. This is one with a technology and humanity twist that has made me rethink things too. So, please go out and support Jeff on that. For sure.
Yeah, today is launch day. The last book written by a human. Pull your phone out right now and buy a book. Leave a review.
# close the deal.
Or post on social media. Those are the 3 things you can do today to help me kind of win the day. See, there I'm trying to do my best to make you aware of it. But if you don't do any of that, if you did not like today at all, if it was not valuable, I love you just the same. It's okay. It's
Perfect.
all good.
But round of applause for Jeff.